Hi everybody, this is Claude, aka the Black Negotiator. Super excited to be with you today to celebrate Kwanzaa again. So Kwanzaa, for those who don't know, was created during the aftermath of the riots in the US. In tough times, I really love this idea of elevating the best of people. So I decided with a few of my friends to celebrate that moment and wrap up 2020 because we can all agree that at best, 2020 was a challenging year. So over the next 7 days, I will interview 7 special guests, and each interview's theme will be based on one of the 7 principles of Kwanzaa. Today, excited to have Phalakone, who will talk about Kuumba, creativity, to do always as much as we can in the way we can in order to leave our community more beautiful and beneficial than we inherited it. Phalakone, thanks a lot for accepting and welcome to the celebration. So can you start by telling us a little bit more about you, where you're from, where you live, what you do?
So hi everyone, my name is Phalakone. I live in Toronto. I'm a real estate entrepreneur and an author of the book, and also a husband of a daughter, which is going to be 16 months very soon. I basically help real estate investor to have turnkey investment in the city. And I also help my French community to settle the life in Canada.
Great, great. How long have you been doing this for?
12 years now. 12 years since I've immigrated from France to Canada, actually. Yeah.
Okay, and there's a lot of great story around that, and there will be a link to your site, which tells a little bit more of your story.
Yeah.
All right, let's jump right in. Can you tell me what comes to mind when someone says, "Let's talk about race"? How do you think about it? How do you approach it? What does it make you feel?
That's a very deep question, actually, Claude. Like when you approached me for the interview, I was kind of not knowing what I was going to discuss about that. But I think I'd like to share the experience of me being an Asian guy that was born, who was born in France and grew up in France. So more in the European mindset versus what is an Asian, a French immigrant with Asian background living in the North American mindset. What I'd like to share is having immigrants, background and being an Asian in France was kind of, a little bit more difficult to adapt and to be seen as another French citizen. Mostly because, I can feel that in France, I was seen like, oh, he's French, but he has his own background, which is Laotian. It was for me like kind of a separation of French and the Asian guy. Compared to when I came to Canada, it was mostly a mix of everything. And in North America, especially in Canada, it was like, oh, it's Phalakone, the French Asian guy, which the French culture and the Lao culture was a part of myself. Compared to France, it was, oh, either you are French, either you are Lao.
You're your whole self in Toronto, in Canada. Your Phalakone, and with all the different parts that Phalakone has, and that you felt in France. There's almost like, maybe I'm pushing the idea, but 2 Phalacones.
Yeah,
And
right.
of course, you have to choose which one you are, depending on the day, depending on where you are, but you're not a whole person.
It was like I grew up in 2 different cultures. When I was out of the home, it was the French culture, growing with others, minorities, and French people. But going back home, it was mostly growing up in the Lao culture. So I really felt like what you said, like being 2 Phalakone, the Lao and the French, compared to in Canada, it's okay, the whole Phalakone includes both of them, yeah.
What have you seen recently that truly inspired you, and specifically around creativity?
I'm going to use the title of my book, for example, which is called La vie de rêve, it's, I mean, in English, The Dream Life. But where I got this title was from one of my favorite movie, which is Scarface with Antonio Al Pacino, sorry, but with Antonio Montana. You know, I like this title because, like I said in the beginning, someone which one of my value is contribution. And since I've been coming to Canada 12 years ago, I've always have this feeling to contribute and to give to my community, to my French community, to evolve in Canada. And it's exactly the type of story that Scarface, I mean, Tony Montana goes when he goes to the US. And there is a movie scene where he's like handled by the cops. And he just say, hey guys, do you know what it's like to be, you know, dictate? I mean, you can eat what you want, you can do what you want, but nothing belongs to you. And that's what you call la vie de rêve, the dream life. And he's playing like the sheep, bah, bah. And I really wanted to give this book this title because coming from an immigrant story, I want to give freedom to the community, to my community. And I was looking for a title, and I say, oh, you know what? I think I'm just got the title from the movie.
And that's why you have a poster right behind you as well of the
Right.
movie.
Yeah, he's behind.
always there to motivate you and to inspire you.
Yes, I really like to see people like growing from, I mean, nothing to someone.
It's almost like the winner's curse. And I don't want to use the term winner, but there's almost like this feeling of you go and you better your life, but you also realize that there's a lot of people that you know were at least as good as you, if not better, who didn't get the opportunity to better their life. And you do realize it's not because there were wars, it's not because they were stupid, it's not because they were idiots, it's not because of all those things. It's just a series of meeting the right people at the right time, having the right inspiration, making the right move, taking the right risks. And at the end of the day, it's having a good mentor or coach or something that inspires you. What advice would you give a young Phalakone growing up?
It would be more curious and learn as much as you can. And the reason why I'm telling this is I grew up in in a culture where first I was mostly educated by my dad, more than my mom. And being the first generation of immigrants, the only discussion we had in the past at dinner time was, that was the own way of my dad how to succeed in life, which was basically, hey guys, I gave you the chance to have a house, gave you the chance to go to school. Now go to school, get a diploma and get a super job. But I'm not only saying this because my dad has his own way of seeing the life, but I knew somewhere in part of me that something else was existing. But growing up in a modest environment, I was not able to see, to understand. We didn't have internet before, and I was just, a little kid doing his own stuff, knowing something, but not looking for the solution. And yeah, all this stuff only came maybe like 20 years later, when I first took a book and I read something that really exploded my brain. And I wish I could have found a mentor or someone just that gave you a truth. Hey, Phalakone, something else exists. It doesn't mean that what your dad is telling you is wrong. It's just that there's a lot of opportunities in the world. There is not only one way to do one stuff, and you have to explore as much as you can. So that's why for me, I wish like if someone had told me, hey guys, you have this point of view, but you can have this other styles, just go for it and learn and go and explore from yourself.
Cool. Cool. So after all, this is a negotiation blog. So let's move into the negotiation part. First, I'm curious about your culture and negotiation. So when you think about your cultural background, do you think first it impacts how you negotiate or how you are influenced? And if yes, how so?
Yes, for sure. I think like the background and the environment where we grew up, probably influenced me for the negotiations. So for me, it was basically grew up in the French culture, but also having my own Asian Lao culture. I think being Asian and having the Lao culture probably first in my first negotiation made me a really, really easy guy to negotiate. Because for us, it was, in Lao, we have a saying, just saying, oh, it doesn't matter. So it's basically you give as much as you can and you don't try to ask or get what you want, So I was only saying yes, yes, oh, and I remember even for my first salary or when I was negotiating my first commission, it was just yes, 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 without really trying to negotiate something higher. And then in terms of the French culture, I think what I've learned from the European mindset is sometimes then you have to say no because you always have a limit for what you can accept. So I think this French culture just taught me to say no for, okay, do this job for X amount of salary or just do this deal for X amount of commission. And then I mix it with the North American style where here we really teach you to ask and get what you want. Specifically ask what you want, because I think in negotiation, we don't get what we want. We mostly get what we ask. I think that's something I think it took me probably until 35 years old to understand that you only get what you ask, not something because you just want it. And so, I think it's a mix of first I was the Asian guy, too nice. And then, the French culture taught me, you gotta say no. And once you mix it, there is another level. Yes, you get only what you ask. So, and it was really the opposite of what I learned from the beginning, because first we only taught you, okay, you're going to work really hard. You're going to have success because you work hard, but it's not only hard work. It's also like, did you ask for it or no? And I think that was, I think it's a pretty something I learned from my experience.
So then what's the best negotiation advice that you ever received?
The best negotiation advice that I received. So I think on top of asking what you want, it's probably knowing what the other party wants by asking a lot of questions and listen. In terms of, I think that's probably the best advice, because I'm not considering myself as an expert, but first when you negotiate, you only talk about what you want. Hey, I want this. I want this to get done, and you don't even think about that. It has to be a win-win situation. You only just, I want to get what I want, and I really don't care about this client, about the other guy, or whoever you are dealing with. But then I realized, oh, this model doesn't work in the long term. So you have to do a win-win situation if you still want to grow up, if you still want to build a long-term business or customer relationship. So it's basically, yes, win-win situation by knowing what the other wants and just trying to match, to get what he wants.
Thanks a lot for answering the question, sharing your insight with us. That will wrap up day number 6, Kuumba, around creativity, to do always as much as we can in the way we can in order to leave our community more beautiful and beneficial than we inherited it. Thanks again, Phalakone, and hope to talk to you soon.
Thank you, Claude, and thank you for having me. Take care.